Dr. Nyx Blackwood was having what she'd diplomatically call a suboptimal day, which in normal human speak meant everything was going straight to hell. The fact that she was staring at definitive proof of an alien armada approaching Earth was, surprisingly, only the third worst thing about her morning. "Would someone please explain to me," she announced to the panic-stricken control room of the International Planetary Defense Facility, "why our quantum detection array is showing me readings that look like someone played asteroids with our solar system's gravity wells." She took a long sip from her sixth cup of coffee, the liquid as dark as her current mood. The facility's AI assistant, Aria, responded with its usual unhelpful precision. "The anomalies appear to be consistent with controlled manipulation of space-time fabric, Dr. Blackwood, similar to how you manipulate your circadian rhythm with excessive caffeine consumption." Did the AI just sass me?" Nyx muttered, squinting at her console. "And here I thought discovering aliens would be the weirdest part of my day." The massive screens surrounding the circular command center displayed a terrifying ballet of approaching vessels, their formation impossibly precise. What had started as a routine deep space scan had quickly evolved into humanity's worst "I told you so" moments since the invention of cryptocurrency. Colonel Zong burst into the room, his usually impeccable uniform showing signs of hasty dressing. "Dr. Blackwood, please tell me this is another one of your system stress tests." "Sorry, Colonel. This is about as real as my student loan debt." Nyx pulled up a holographic display, expanding it with practiced gestures. "Meet our new neighbors. They're not bringing pie." The alien fleet, designated as the Zar'kathi by their own broadcast signatures, had appeared just beyond Neptune's orbit. Their ships moved with a geometric precision that made human spacecraft look like drunken butterflies in comparison. But it wasn't their ships that had Nyx's full attention, it was the massive construct they were assembling at the fleet's center. That she pointed to the structure is what's giving my sensors an aneurysm. They're building something that's interfacing directly with our sun's magnetic field. And before you ask, yes, that should be impossible. And no, I don't know how they're doing it. The facility erupted into controlled chaos as analysts, scientists, and military personnel tried to make sense of the situation. World leaders were being awakened at ungodly hours, which Nyx thought was fitting since they were about to have a very ungodly problem on their hands. "Our defensive systems?" Colonel Zhang asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. "About as useful as a firewall made of tissue paper," Nyx replied, bringing up the analysis. "Their tech is so advanced, our most sophisticated weapons wouldn't even register as a mild inconvenience. It's like bringing a spitball to a supernova fight." The first transmission from the Zar'kathi fleet came exactly when Nyx's models predicted it would, which she found annoyingly punctual of them. The message was clear, concise, and thoroughly terrifying. They had developed a weapon capable of inducing targeted solar flares. One demonstration later, which turned a small section of Jupiter's atmosphere into a light show visible from Earth, and every military strategist on the planet needed a change of pants. "Well," Nyx said, watching the recorded footage of the weapon's test fire for the 13th time, "at least they're efficient about announcing our impending doom. Got to appreciate their presentation skills." As she observed the panicked reactions of world leaders on various screens, Nyx noticed something in the weapon's energy signature, a pattern that shouldn't have been there. She enhanced the reading, her eyes narrowing as lines of data scrolled past. "No way," she whispered, her coffee forgotten. "They didn't just build a superweapon. They networked it. Those overconfident cosmic squid actually gave their solar flare cannon an IP address." For the first time since the crisis began, Dr. Nyx Blackwood smiled. It wasn't a nice smile, it was the kind of smile that had preceded some of humanity's most spectacular hacks, the ones that ended up redacted from official records and discussed only in whispered legends among cybersecurity experts. "Colonel," she called out, not taking her eyes off the data, "I'm going to need more coffee. And someone get me a direct line to every quantum computer on Earth. We're about to teach some aliens why you don't bring networked weapons to a hacker fight. It's like they're practically begging to be hacked." Nyx muttered, her fingers dancing across multiple holographic keyboards. The control signals from the alien superweapon pulsed across her screens in mesmerizing patterns, each burst carrying terabytes of data. Their entire command structure runs on quantum encryption, but they're using standardized protocols. Amateurs. Behind her, teams of scientists and military personnel watched in a mixture of awe and confusion as she translated the alien code in real time. The room had transformed into what she lovingly called her chaos cave, with displays showing everything from solar activity readings to what appeared to be alien cat videos, or at least something tentacled playing with a ball of plasma. The main screen flickered, and the imposing figure of Commander Vex Thor appeared. The Zar'kathi leader's iridescent scales shimmed with barely contained superiority as his 4 eyes surveyed the human facility. Primitives. He began, in what Nyx considered the most cliché alien invasion opener possible. Your solar analysis confirms you've witnessed our demonstration. The stellar manipulation array is beyond your comprehension. Submit to Zar'kathi rule, or watch your civilization burn in the cleansing fire of your own star. Nyx raised her hand. Quick question, your scaliness. Did you just broadcast this ultimatum using quantum entangled particles routed through a standard IPv8 protocol? All 4 of Vex Thor's eyes blinked in sequence. Your understanding of our basic communication methods is unexpected. Yeah, and your understanding of network security is underwhelming. Who designed your system architecture? And intern Nyx grinned as she noticed something in the data stream. Oh my God, you're running updates in the background during an invasion. This is precious. Colonel Zong cleared his throat loudly. Dr. Blackwood, perhaps antagonizing the aliens with the solar superweapon isn't the best strategy. On the contrary, she replied, not looking up from her work. I'm conducting a very important test of alien psychology. Hypothesis: advanced species can still suffer from tech bro syndrome. Vex Thor's mandibles clicked in what might have been annoyance. Your insolence is noted. Perhaps a demonstration closer to home will. Hold that thought, Nyx interrupted, pulling up a complex diagram. Let me explain to my colleagues exactly how your fancy star zapper works, because it's honestly hilarious. The diagram expanded, showing the intricate workings of the stellar manipulation array. See this? They're using quantum entanglement to create a synchronized network of gravity wells. Pretty standard stuff, right? But here's the kicker, they're running it all through a centralized command system. One point of failure. It's like they've never heard of distributed computing. Impossible. Vex Thor's scales flushed a deep purple. You cannot comprehend. The tachyon pulse generator interfacing with the magnetic field harmonics. Already reverse engineered it. The quantum cascade amplifier? Please, I built better ones in grad school. Nyx pulled up more diagrams. The only impressive thing is how you managed to make something this powerful while ignoring basic cybersecurity principles. It's like building a Death Star and putting the self-destruct button on the outside. As she spoke, her fingers never stopped moving. Lines of code, both human and alien, flowed across her screens. She had identified 7 potential vulnerabilities in the weapons control system, and thanks to Commander Vex Thor's ongoing monologue about Zar'kathi's superiority, she'd just found an 8th. All right, first attempt coming up, she announced to the room. Either I'm about to gain partial control of their weapon, or, well, let's focus on the positive scenario. Colonel Zhang leaned forward. And the negative scenario. Ever wonder what a solar flare tastes like? Neither have I, and I'd like to keep it that way. She initiated the hack sequence, her custom-written quantum algorithms attacking the alien system's defenses. For a moment, it seemed to work. The weapons control interface flickered, lines of human code integrating with alien commands. Nyx allowed herself a small smile of triumph. Then everything went sideways. Warning klaxons blared as the stellar manipulation array pulsed with uncontrolled energy. A solar flare erupted from the sun's surface, thankfully small and aimed away from Earth, but enough to demonstrate how close they'd come to disaster. Minor setback, Nyx announced to the terrified room. On the plus side, we now know their security protocols have a severe allergy to human coding. On the minus side, we almost turned Mercury into a toasted marshmallow. Vex Thor's laughter filled the command center. Your primitive attempts at infiltration are amusing, human. You've only proven the futility of resistance. Your species has one planetary rotation to surrender, or we will demonstrate the array's full power. As the transmission cut off, Nyx was already deep in analysis mode. Did anyone else notice his scales turned chartreuse when I mentioned the quantum cascade amplifier? And that security subroutine that kicked in wasn't part of the original system, they added it recently. They're worried about our failed hack that almost caused a solar flare, Colonel Zhang asked incredulously. No, Nyx grinned, pulling up new data streams. About the fact that we got as far as we did. They're not used to species being able to even understand their tech, let alone mess with it. And here's the beautiful part, they just showed us exactly how their defensive algorithms work. She spun in her chair, facing the colonel. Get me access to every quantum computer on the planet. And I need someone to make a coffee run the good stuff, not that break room sludge. We've got about 23 hours to figure out how to turn their sun-melting space gun into the galaxy's biggest ransomware victim. As the facility burst into renewed activity, Nyx cracked her knuckles and pulled up a fresh coding interface. Time to show these aliens why Earth's cybersecurity warnings always come in multiple languages. The 20-hour mark arrived with all the subtlety of a quantum physics exam after an all-night coding binge. Nyx sat surrounded by empty coffee cups and holographic displays showing increasingly concerning data about the stellar manipulation array's power buildup. Your primitive species continues to resist. Commander Vex Thor's voice boomed through the facility. Therefore, we will demonstrate our weapon's true potential. Observe as we initiate the charging sequence. Yeah, cosmic annihilation. Very impressive, Nyx muttered, then froze as new data scrolled across her screen. Oh, you pretentious space lobsters, what have you done? The door hissed open, and Dr. Raj Patel strode in, his usual immaculate appearance somewhat diminished by what appeared to be 3 days without sleep. Still trying to brute force your way through alien encryption? Blackwood, some things never change. Well, if it isn't the quantum computing golden boy himself, Nyx spun her chair around. Shouldn't you be accepting another award for most likely to quote protocol standards during a date? Colonel Zhang stepped between them. Dr. Patel is here because I found something in their quantum encryption that you missed. Raj interrupted, dropping a tablet onto Nyx's desk. Their entire system is based on a recursive quantum algorithm that mimics organic neural patterns. Nyx finished, earning a scowl from Raj. Yeah, I spotted that 6 hours ago. What I didn't spot was, wait, she grabbed the tablet, eyes widening. You magnificent bastard, you found their validation sequence. I aimed to please, Raj said dryly. Though I should point out that your earlier attempt nearly turned the solar system into a very localized supernova. Details, Nyx waved dismissively. But this is exactly what we need. Their whole system thinks like a brain, a very advanced, very alien brain, but still a brain. And what do all brains have? Cognitive biases, they said in unison, then glared at each other. The facility shook as the alien weapon began its power-up sequence. On the main screen, sensors showed massive energy fluctuations in the sun's magnetic field. Vex Thor's face appeared again, his scales now glowing with triumphant bioluminescence. Your time expires, humans. The array now charges for a solar flare that will cleanse your entire hemisphere. Your primitive defenses cannot. Quick question, Nyx interrupted, ignoring Colonel Zhang's frantic head shaking. That quantum validation sequence you use, the one that's definitely not based on Zar'kathi brain patterns. How's it handling the cognitive load of maintaining a stable field? All 4 of Vex Thor's eyes narrowed simultaneously. You cannot possibly. Because according to these readings, she continued, pulling up diagnostics, you're seeing a 0.03% variance in the quantum field stability. Almost unnoticeable. Almost. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the alien commander's features. Raj leaned forward, catching on to Nyx's strategy. And that variance compounds exponentially during power-up sequences, doesn't it? Basic quantum mechanics. Well, basic for us primitives. Impossible, Vex Thor snarled. Our calculations are perfect. The array's neural network, he stopped abruptly. Neural network, you say? Nyx's grin could have powered a small city. Thanks for confirming that. Raj, you thinking what I'm thinking? If you're thinking about exploiting the cognitive bias inherent in their neural validation protocols to create a cascading quantum uncertainty loop, then yes, he paused. God help me, I'm actually agreeing with Nyx Blackwood. Warning signals blared as the array's power reached 60%. The sun's surface began to ripple ominously, magnetic fields twisting into unnatural patterns. Nyx's fingers flew across her keyboards, while Raj coordinated with quantum computing centers around the globe. You know, Nyx called out as she worked, for a species that's so advanced, you made a really basic mistake. You designed your whole system to think like you do. Big brain time, literally. But here's the thing about human hackers. She initiated a new sequence of code. We specialize in thinking differently. The array reached 80% power. Sweat dripped down Colonel Zhang's face as he watched the numbers climb. Dr. Blackwood, Dr. Patel, whatever you're going to do. Already doing it, they responded in sync, then shared a disgusted look. Your attempts are futile, Vex Thor declared, though his scales had taken on a distinctly worried hue. The array has never failed. Our neural algorithms are perfect. Perfect is boring, Nyx shot back. Perfect is predictable, and predictable, she slammed the enter key with unnecessary drama. Predictable is hackable. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the array's energy readings began to fluctuate wildly. Vex Thor's image broke into static as alerts blared across his command center. What have you done? He demanded. Introduced a little chaos into your perfect system, Nyx explained cheerfully. Turns out, when you base your security on how your species thinks, it becomes vulnerable to how other species think. Specifically, to human chaos theory and our charming ability to break literally anything we touch. We call it the Murphy's Law Protocol, Raj added with uncharacteristic smugness. If something can go wrong, it will go wrong, Nyx finished. And your weapon is about to go very, very wrong. The array's power level hit 95%, but instead of the smooth build-up the Zar'kathi had planned, the energy began to pulse erratically. Vex Thor barked orders in his native language as his command center erupted into chaos. You have exactly 10 minutes, Nyx announced to the alien commander, to power down your array before our hack turns it into the galaxy's most expensive light show. Your choice, Scaly. As the facility waited in tense silence, Nyx turned to Raj. Not bad for a protocol purist. Likewise, for a chaos gremlin, he replied. Though we're still going to die if this doesn't work. Please, Nyx scoffed, watching the array's power fluctuate more violently. When has anything I've done ever gone wrong? The look Raj gave her could have frozen hydrogen. Here's the thing about quantum networked superweapons, Nyx announced to the room while simultaneously typing on 3 different keyboards. They're just like any other network device. They need to send and receive signals. And what's Earth absolutely covered in? Garbage, Raj suggested, not looking up from his own work. Besides garbage. Satellites, Nyx projected a global map showing thousands of satellites in orbit. We've got everything up there from GPS to secret military hardware to Elon Musk's space junk collection. And every single one of them can be reprogrammed. Colonel Zhang looked skeptical. To do what, exactly? To turn Earth into one massive signal mirror, she grinned. Project Boomerang. We're going to catch their weapons control signal and send it right back at them, with a few modifications. That's impossible, Raj stated flatly, then paused. Although, if we reconfigured the quantum reception arrays, his fingers started flying across his keyboard. We'd need to coordinate every satellite in orbit. Already on it, Nyx replied. I may have borrowed, technically stolen access to everything in orbit, including that classified constellation that definitely doesn't exist over the Pacific. Colonel Zhang pinched the bridge of his nose. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. The facility burst into coordinated chaos as teams began implementing Nyx's plan. Satellite control centers worldwide reported mysterious access requests, while quantum computing facilities redirected all their processing power to the effort. Status report, Commander Vex Thor's image flickered onto the main screen. Your primitive attempts at resistance have ceased. Have you finally accepted your inevitable? Hey, quick question, Nyx interrupted. How's that power fluctuation working out for you? Because according to these readings, your array's quantum field is about as stable as my college credit score. The alien commander's scales rippled with barely contained rage. Our engineers have contained your sabotage attempt. The array remains. Functional? Sure? Stable? Debatable. Hotel? Trivago Nyx winked at the confused alien. But please, continue charging your weapon. I'm sure nothing else will go wrong. As soon as the transmission cut, Nyx's expression turned serious. He's suspicious. We need to work faster. Raj, how's the satellite network? 60% reconfigured. But Nyx, he hesitated. If we're off by even a microsecond in our timing, then we'll have front row seats to a solar apocalypse. Think positive. The next hours were a blur of coding, quantum calculations, and increasingly creative cursing in multiple languages. Nyx and Raj worked in surprisingly effective synchronization, their usual rivalry forgotten in the face of potential extinction. Satellite network at 80%, Raj reported. But they're scanning our orbital infrastructure. They'll detect the changes soon. Then we'll give them something else to detect. Nyx initiated a new sequence, launching Operation Disco Ball. Suddenly, every satellite in Earth's orbit began broadcasting different signals, weather data, TV shows, cat videos, and what appeared to be the entire history of human memes. What are you doing? Colonel Zhang demanded. Creating noise, Nyx explained. So much noise that they won't notice the quantum reception arrays hiding in plain sight. It's like hiding a needle in a haystack by throwing the entire farm at them. Another transmission from Vex Thor, your orbital devices have become erratic. Explain. Sorry, that's just our TikTok satellites acting up again. You know how it is with social media. Nyx gave her most innocent smile. Totally normal Earth stuff. Nothing to worry about. After the transmission ended, Raj spoke quietly. They're not buying it. They don't need to buy it, Nyx replied. They just need to be confused long enough for us to finish. How close? Network is at 95%. But Nyx Raj pointed to new data streaming in. They're charging the array again. Full power. Perfect. Her smile turned predatory. Everything's going according to plan. That's what worries me, Raj muttered. Your plans usually end with something exploding. Name one time. The quantum processor incident of 2023. That was a controlled demolition. It was a coffee maker. Their banter was interrupted by alerts showing the array's power level climbing rapidly. Vex Thor appeared again, his expression triumphant. Your primitive deceptions end now. The array will fire in 5 minutes. Any further interference will result in. Yeah, about that, Nyx cut in. You might want to check your targeting systems. Like really check them. Maybe run a diagnostic? I'm just trying to be helpful here. For the first time, uncertainty crept into the alien commander's voice. What have you done? Me? Nothing. Well, nothing yet. But let's just say Project Boomerang is about to live up to its name. She turned to Raj. Network status. 100% configured. May whatever gods exist help us all. Nyx cracked her knuckles and pulled up the final execution sequence. Time to show these aliens why you never pick a fight with a species that turned. Have you tried turning it off and on again into a legitimate troubleshooting strategy? Initiating final firing sequence. Vex Thor announced, his scales gleaming with anticipated triumph. Witness the power of true technological superiority. The stellar manipulation array hummed to life, its energy readings climbing past safety thresholds. The sun's surface began to roil and twist, magnetic fields bending to alien will. In the control room, Nyx's fingers danced across her console with practiced precision. 3, she counted down, sharing a knowing look with Raj. 2, 1, release the squirrels. Colonel Zhang blinked. The what? It's what I named the virus, she explained. Because it's about to drive their nuts. The array fired. A massive surge of quantum entangled energy erupted from its focusing arrays, reaching out to grasp the sun's magnetic field. For a split second, everything worked exactly as the Zar'kathi had planned. Then Project Boomerang activated. Earth's satellite network lit up like a Christmas tree having an existential crisis. Thousands of devices, from weather satellites to secret military hardware, caught the array's control signal and twisted it through quantum processors that Raj had reprogrammed. The modified signal bounced back at the alien fleet faster than Vex Thor could shout impossible in 7 different languages. "What is happening?" the alien commander demanded as his weapon's energy beam curved through space like a cosmic boomerang. "This defies all known physics." "Fun fact about humans," Nyx replied cheerfully. "We have a bad habit of doing exactly that. Physics is more like a polite suggestion, really." The redirected beam slammed into the Zar'kathi fleet's outer defensive screen. Ships scattered like stellar billiard balls as their own weapons' power turned against them. Raj's calculations had been perfect. The energy wasn't enough to destroy the ships, but more than sufficient to throw their entire formation into chaos. "Secondary systems engaging," Raj announced, his usual stoic demeanor cracking into a smile. "Transmitting override codes now." The array's control systems, already compromised by Nyx's quantum virus, began responding to human commands. Holographic displays showed the weapon's targeting system switching allegiance faster than a politician during election season. "This is impossible." Vex Thor's scales had turned a pale shade of what Nyx assumed was panic. "Our security protocols were based on logical, orderly thinking," Nyx interrupted. "But humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our ability to look at something working perfectly and think, but what if we did it wrong on purpose?" The array powered up again, this time under Earth's control. The Zar'kathi fleet's formation had devolved into what Nyx lovingly called a space traffic jam, with ships trying to simultaneously retreat and maintain defensive positions. "You should probably surrender now," she suggested to Vex Thor. "Unless you want to see what happens when we test all those weird buttons in your weapons control panel." "Ooh, what does this one labeled quantum cascade do?" Wait, Vex Thor's voice had lost its superiority. "You cannot comprehend the array's full capabilities. One mistake could destabilize the entire solar system." "Bold of you to assume we care about stabilizing things." Nyx's finger hovered over the command key. "We're the species that invented parkour, extreme ironing, and competitive cheese rolling. Stability is not our strong suit." The array hummed again, this time targeting the Zar'kathi command ship. The beam missed deliberately, but came close enough to scorch its quantum communication arrays. Across the fleet, alien vessels began powering down their weapons. "Consider this a lesson in human nature," Nyx continued, warming to her topic. "We're not just primitive creatures playing with technology we don't understand. We're primitive creatures who excel at breaking technology we don't understand and turning it into something even its creators didn't think possible."
The array Vex Thor's voice was barely a whisper. "You've completely rewritten its base code. Centuries of Zar'kathi engineering.
Improved by human chaos theory and about 16 gallons of coffee," she confirmed. "Now, about that surrender." The Zar'kathi fleet had begun a rapid retreat, their perfect formation abandoned in favor of what could only be described as a panicked scramble. The array, now fully under Earth's control, tracked their movement with a kind of precision that made military commanders weep with joy. "Should we pursue?" Colonel Zhang asked, already knowing the answer. "Nah," Nyx leaned back in her chair, stretching. "Let them go. They've got a much more important job now." "Which is?" Raj raised an eyebrow. Spreading the word, her grin turned predatory. "Let the galaxy know that if they want to invade Earth, they better bring tech that can't be hacked by a species that turns computer bugs into features for fun." The last transmission from Commander Vex Thor was brief. "The Zar'kathi Empire acknowledges humanity's unique capabilities. We will withdraw, but know that others will come." "Looking forward to it," Nyx replied. "We'll add their technological distinctiveness to our own, as some other species probably said somewhere. Now, get out of our solar system before I see what this button labeled experimental does." The alien fleet vanished into quantum space, leaving behind a slightly singed solar system and one very impressive piece of repurposed technology. In the control room, celebrations erupted as the reality of their victory sank in. "So," Raj said quietly to Nyx, "what should we do with our new sun poking stick?" First, document it properly. Because I refuse to write comments in my code, she stretched again. Then, let's see what other cool features we can add. I'm thinking solar flare light shows for New Year's. Colonel Zhang's horrified expression suggested that humanity's adventures in alien tech modification were just beginning. 3 days after what the media had dubbed the Great Solar Hack. Nyx sat in her now quiet control room, feet propped on her desk, watching the last traces of the Zar'kathi fleet vanish from long-range sensors. The array, Earth's newest and most improbable defensive weapon, hummed contentedly in orbit around the sun, its quantum processors now running a modified version of Linux because, as Nyx had explained to increasingly concerned military officials, why not? You do realize, Raj said, entering with 2 cups of coffee, that every major power on Earth is fighting over who gets to control this thing. Yep, Nyx took her cup. That's why I locked them all out of the system and set the password to something none of them will ever guess. Which is password 1234, but spelled correctly and with proper capitalization. Trust me, it'll take them years to try that. The global celebrations were still ongoing, though they'd evolved from we survived to we actually won to wait. We have what now? News channels kept running footage of the battle, particularly enjoying the moment when the Zar'kathi fleet had scattered like pigeons in a park when someone brings bread. Final modifications to the array are complete, Raj reported, pulling up a diagnostic screen. Though I still think adding an MP3 player was unnecessary. If we're going to have a superweapon, it should at least be able to play Another One Bites the Dust during operation. A priority message flashed on their screens, another world leader demanding access to the array. Nyx deleted it without reading it, then turned to her final task. Time to send our farewell message to our scaly friends. She pulled up the quantum communications system and began broadcasting, Dear Zar'kathi Empire. Thank you for the generous donation to Earth's planetary defense system. We've taken the liberty of making some improvements to your array. You'll be happy to know that we've increased its efficiency by 40% by removing all those unnecessary safety protocols. We've also added cup holders. Cup holders? Raj raised an eyebrow. Metaphorically speaking. She continued typing, we look forward to demonstrating these improvements to any other alien fleets that may visit. We're particularly excited to show off the new experimental features menu, which we're still not quite sure what it does, but the test results have been spectacularly unpredictable. As she sent the message, the sun flared briefly, forming what looked suspiciously like a thumbs up visible from Earth's surface. Did you just? Raj started. Make the sun dab? Maybe. Nyx grinned. Let's call it a signature move. Somewhere in deep space, a Zar'kathi fleet commander received the message and made a note in the Empire's records: Earth classification, do not invade. Reason, they don't just think outside the box. They've weaponized the box.